I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone. What if growth isn't about answers, but about having the courage to ask the questions that scare you the most? And what if your greatest leadership potential isn't about doing more, but about unlearning the limits you never chose? The truth is, discomfort isn't your enemy, it's the doorway to your next breakthrough. Simon Calderbank is a leadership mindset coach, speaker, and founder of Big Knows, spelled Knows, a coaching consultancy dedicated to helping women leaders break through barriers and lead with purpose. As the founder of Big Knows, Simon helps women leaders break the barriers holding them back. His coaching powers tell them to reflect, reframe, and reinvent their mindset to create lasting change. Inspired by strong women who raised him, Simon brings deep empathy and advocacy to everything he does. A former successful business development consultant, Simon's leap to helping women unlock their potential came after a cancer scare in 2015. This became the catalyst to discovering his true calling. His dedication to gender equality earned him a spot on the 2024 Northern Women's Power inaugural advocacy list, recognized as one of just 20 men making an impact. A devoted dad, partner, and fitness enthusiast, Simon supports women to rise, lead, and thrive with brilliance, purpose, courage, and conviction. Welcome, Simon from Manchester. Thank you for joining us here today.
No, thank you, Jane. And it's lovely to hear those words read back, and you realise what you've done, where you've come from, how you've done it, and you also realise there's so much more to achieve as well. So no, it's a lovely stepping stone. So yeah, I'm
Thank you.
excited to be meeting you and continuing the work that we do. So
Yes, absolutely. And we're excited to have you here. And thank you so much for joining us from Manchester. So, to get started, you write that your coaching consultancy business named Big Knows grew out of your personal knowledge and experience. Give us some insight into your journey to founding the business and its core concept.
I suppose Big Nose came from I've always served people ever since my first role was as a part-time undertaker working with my stepfather. And then I moved into the service industries, so leisure, hospitality, retail. So for me, being around people, supporting them and serving them, making them feel good was always important for me. And I sort of slipped into sales and marketing, because I could talk. I also had the ability to listen, and I liked, say, solving people's problems. So sales for me seemed an obvious route to take, and I became successful. And I set my own business up in 2013, having worked for probably 15 years serving other people within their companies. And Big Nose was born because of I suppose, a situation where I'd been in a toxic culture. I'd been bullied by fellow men who doubted my integrity and doubted my ability to win new business. I've been in the business for 24 hours, and they couldn't understand why I'd not delivered them a sales strategy for the next 3 years within the first day of being there. So I just kind of thought, do I really want to be working with people like this in this environment?
Mhm.
So I took the leap of faith to leave there and set up on my own. And that's where Big Nose was born. It was born because we had this naming ceremony and we sat around, we went on a brewery tour, four of us, and questions flew and a couple of drinks were taken. And someone said, well, you ask lots of questions, you're really nosy. And then my best friend Keith said, and you've got an incredibly big nose. And I just said, well, it's not that big. And then his wife, Jane, who was a marketing director at the time for the co-op, she said, I've got it. Let's call you Big Nose. And I went, wow, how can that be a good name for a consultant? She said, no. I don't mean big nose as in the shape, as in big nose as in knowledge. So nose as in Knows, as you said at the start. So because it's about knowing. Knowledge gives you power to be able to influence decisions within yourself and others. And that's where it was born from. And of course, the branding was a very nasal influence for, for the fun aspect of it, because I'm playful. Even though what I
Right.
do is really serious, I like to do it with a smile. And that's where the concept of Big Nose came from. And it was a sales and development and business development consultancy. I did what I'd always done. And you mentioned a cancer scare. That was 2 years into my running my own business. And I realized that when you have time to think, and the cancer scare was benign, it was a tumor. They thought I'd got a tumor in my nose, of all places. I mean, you couldn't write it. I know. So I was given, I know, 10 weeks to convalesce, and the surgeon broke my nose to repair it. And he said, this is your sort of program now for the rest of your life. But I had to take time off the business. So I just reflected heavily, and I realized that I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled in
Mm.
the work that I was doing. I was still helping people, but not in a way that gave me any sense of purpose. So I made that delightful leap from business development to personal development. A, because I felt comfortable in applying all the information that I'd learned and knowledge I'd gained down the years of working with some incredible people. And I thought it made sense to then just shift, still serve people, but serve them in a way that wasn't going to make them money directly, but was going to make them better versions of themselves. And that felt like a true calling. So taking
Right.
that leap of faith meant learning a whole new way of life, learning how to coach, how to train, how to deliver workshops. I'd never done anything like that ever. I'd pitched presentations for maybe 30 minutes, but to go and deliver 1 day, 2 day, and 3 day workshops I never thought I'd be able to do it. And as it transpired, I loved it. It was natural.
Mm.
And that was the start, the launch pad for me becoming a coach and a trainer. And then people gave me work, and you find your way. You don't really know where you're going to end up or who you're going to serve. But I just ended up, I suppose, accepting work from every corner, every opportunity, and working with other training companies. I found was a real godsend for me because it enabled me to learn from others who were more experienced, people I respected. And so I suppose I found my own style, but got lots of support and help from other peers in the industry, which really helped shape who I am today.
Right. Yes. Isn't it interesting how the universe or God or whatever you'd like to call it gives us that helping hand? And when we're aware of it, it helps us move forward. For example, you were very aware when you were in business. You said that whatever you were doing was not resonating with you. Did you want to be with this group of people that weren't your
Mm.
people because they were, those individuals that had different ideas of what success meant? And that's interesting because we're leading into our next question. But you had the awareness of that. And then, of course, you had the cancer scare, which gave you the time. It's often the time that we don't give ourselves to reflect,
Yeah.
because that's what we need. We need the space and the time, because all the static, as I call it, interferes with our ability to have clarity. They always say clarity comes in a whisper. It doesn't come in a shout. And so in order to hear that whisper, we have to have quiet. We have to have time to reflect. So beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing that, because it goes hand in hand with a lot of individuals I've spoken with. And they often get the clarity when they have that time that they've either given to themselves or the universe gives it to you so that you can have
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, today people are waking up, speaking of your story, to the fact that success without meaning falls short. And that's, I feel, where you were. And if someone is at a crossroads looking to align with their calling, what are the first steps that you would encourage them to take if they were in that
Well,
position?
well, certainly not be diagnosed with a suspected cancer in the nose. That's the first thing. But find the time to remove yourself from your, I suppose, your daily routines, or some might say their daily grind, and carve out that time. I found going for hikes. I joined a hiking club, Interestingly, it was all about community and people being together from different walks of life and different businesses. And I would love to talk to people, but I found the most empowerment came from when I would split from the group. So as long as I could see the group within my eyesight, I would just love to walk on my own and take in nature and use that time to deeply reflect and I suppose really question and challenge my own perspective. And then I would catch up with the group and then I would ask them what I'd been thinking about, and I would then run it by them and get their perspectives. And then I would fall back again, and almost as if I was kind of creating my own thought bowl to understand, why I was at a crossroads and how I was going to navigate in the right direction, not just for me, but also for my children, for my family, and also for those future friends that I knew I'd meet. I just didn't know where or when. So it was a case of,
Mm.
I saw that the walking analogy for me was wonderful because it gave me air, it gave me time, and being surrounded by nature in all seasons. In the UK, we have a battery of weather. So the weather wasn't the problem. The weather wasn't an issue. The more forceful the weather, the more my perspective was challenged and my physical side was challenged. And I would come home after 9 hours of hiking in hills and small mountains and be utterly mesmerized and energized. So that's one thing I would advise people to do is go for a walk, take time out, take a dictaphone, use your phone, take a pen and paper, anything just to kind of clear your mind and ask yourself questions, because that's what I did. Ask myself questions like, why am I here? What's holding me back? What insecurities do I carry with me? What baggage have I got? And how can I suppose, loosen that baggage so therefore I become free? So
Mm.
if you're at crossroads, I think it's finding the time, seeking a really good support network. I was lucky, I had fellow hikers who I trusted and respected. So having a good support network is crucial in any walk of life, but particularly when you are at a crossroads and being prepared to face some harsh truths that you might hear. So 360 feedback is always a valuable commodity. You just have to be prepared to hear some uncomfortable truths, which I was
Mm.
prepared for. So yeah.
Mm. I could see where that all feeds into your teaching. It's beautiful. Absolutely. And surrounding yourself with people who speak with you and who are your people. It's just like you said, you were at the pub and you had your friends, and that was so funny, by the way. The talk about, well, you've been a nosy person all your life, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but really, I mean, that was such a gift, like you said, to go and reflect and then come back and talk about it. What a gift that was. Well,
Mm.
thank you for that. So, what's the most common truth then that you see women avoiding, and what happens when they finally face it?
The most common truth. Oh, what a great question. I think the most common truth women face is not being good enough.
Mm.
Not being good
Yeah.
enough. Feeling powerless in a very male dominated environment. It's as if the world of work wasn't built for them, which is
Mhm.
insane when you think
Mm.
about it. So that's one of the big common truths is, am I good enough? And I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. And that's something that we always work with women clients. It's, am I good enough? And I said, well, do you think you're good enough? Do you feel that you're good
Mm.
enough? What is it that holds you back? Where does that mindset originate from? Are you born with that mindset? No. Therefore, what's creating it? What conditioning are you allowing in that's giving you that sense of, or that lack of worth? So that's a common truth that I hear a lot, and I'd say it disheartens me. I've got a young daughter she's 14 now, so my daughter's a driving force for everything that I do.
Mm.
She's not quite aware of that yet. She kind of knows it, but she doesn't really understand why I do what I do. She just thinks it's a good thing. So yeah, that'd be the key common truth for me is, why am I not good enough? And
Mm.
yeah, that's where we start.
So, inquiry, finding out. doing the excavation, as I call it, to find out, is there any tools or suggest say a group of maybe 3 questions that you have that you tell them to answer while they're reflecting?
I think I said before it is, what insecurities are you carrying? Um, I want to ask them the questions that get them to think really deeply, and the questions that potentially will take them back to a place that may be uncomfortable. And what I find that is most the people I work with, most of their challenges and most of their issues or limiting beliefs, they've been carried with them for sometimes decades. So it's
Mm,
about taking them back to a place where did that originate from? Where was that thinking from? So asking about insecurities usually is a good sort of starting place. Um,
mm,
Asking them to think about who was the worst team member or boss they ever worked with. Who was that person? What were they like? What were their behaviors like? Trying to understand where the influences have originated from that potentially have created this veneer or this mindset which they carry today. So
right,
that's usually a good place to start, is by asking some uncomfortable questions to enable them to, I suppose, understand. Because behind every
right.
behavior, there is usually a key emotion, a key driver. And yeah, most of it does stem from my own experiences. It can stem from childhood, school days, early work. Early work
Mm-hmm.
memories are powerful because they're the
Right.
ones that we carry. They're the ones that shape people. Mine was
Yes.
last work memory was a toxic environment, and so I've experienced firsthand what it's like to feel to be bullied in public
Mm,
in front of all your team. So yeah, sometimes it's you ask me what was the tipping point, and I was in the room, and I see people visually go back to that place and
mm,
almost re-encounter the experience as if it's live. That
yeah.
helps.
Yeah, and that's a powerful memory. If it's just that, like you said, as it feels like it's live and it's right there. So thank you for that insight. Absolutely. Well, self honesty, and this is coming full circle to what you just said. Tell us why the self honesty is one of your pillars of transformation, and how can someone begin to recognize when they're not being fully honest with themselves?
Ooh. Well, for me, if I'm not being honest with myself, I feel it. I feel an
Mm,
uncomfortableness. I feel a sense of mistrust within myself. Um, it doesn't manifest itself physically, as far as I'm aware, but other people will notice different behavioral tendencies within me. I might start to talk a lot more, or I might go off on tangents. So for me, it's
mm,
about how do I get that balance back? Well, it's about looking in the mirror and saying, actually, am I being true to myself here? Um,
right.
am I setting the right example? And I ask my clients exactly the same question. I said, when the world is good, when you're on your A game, when everything feels like everything is perfect, what does it feel like? What behaviors do you display, and what behaviors do people see? And then
Mhm,
ask them to link that. Okay, well, and how do you feel? What emotions then do you associate with those behaviors? And they're usually very, very sort of similar. And
mhm,
you kind of get a sense of I suppose, what their A game feels like. And then say, well, on the flip side, then, when things aren't going well, maybe when you're not being true to yourself, I said, what behaviors do you demonstrate then? So, again, it's very much a looking in the mirror approach to understand and identify, I suppose, what belief systems are potentially driving those emotions, which then manifest themselves in those behaviors. For me, it's a feeling. I feel it. I feel uncomfortable. I
mhm,
can't explain it. I just feel a sense of, it's not a sense of dread, it's an anxiety, as if
mm,
someone's knocking in my head to say, this isn't you. You're either
mm,
pleasing somebody for wrong reasons, or therefore just, again, take that step back and reflect.
right.
You mentioned at the
Awareness.
start, yeah, that's it. It's that awareness piece that, or if you don't, like when sometimes you wake up and you just don't feel like your normal self, even though you've gone to bed and you've done your affirmations and your mantras and you've got a great day ahead of you. If something's not quite right, I normally have that sense of anxiety when I wake up, as if I'm basically relaying what I'm expecting, how I'm expecting to behave or perform that day. And if I don't feel it's quite right, that gives me that awareness to get, hang on a minute, and I'll
Hmm.
just lie there and then I'll move, and then I'll go and do some deep breathing. I'll go and box breathe for 5 minutes, either at the window or in the garden if the weather's clement, and that gives me clarity. It's almost like
Right.
I give myself permission to sense check why I've got this
Mm.
anxiety. And it's only small, but it's enough to put me off kilter.
Hmm. I love that sense check, because we are an energy. And when
Definitely.
like you said, the feeling, the emotions are energy in motion, and
Mm,
the body keeps score. So it's always giving us messages when we take the
yes.
time to listen. So thank you for that. That's so insightful. And the fact that you say that this is how it is in me, that I feel it, that gives your clients an opportunity to say, okay, let me close my eyes and what am I feeling? Because a lot of times we get too much in our head and we start to analyze and we start to break things down. And a lot of times your body will tell you what it is. It's physiology. It's just we're amazing beings. We just need to understand and give ourselves the awareness of what it is, the messages that our bodies are sending us, and our minds as well, our thoughts. And you spoke very briefly there about positive affirmations. So why do you believe then that positive affirmations are more than just feel good quotes, and how do you recommend people use them effectively?
Well, when I was many years ago, I used to read a lot of self help books, and I read a lot of self help books to help me understand what made people buy. So, as a salesperson, for me, it was what
Mm.
makes people tick. What behaviors do they display? In other words, how can I make it more accessible for them to buy from me or the company I work for? So, I had a light bookshelves full of all these self help books, and there was one that an old mentor had given me, and it was tattered and torn, and I think it dated back to the early 1920s by a French, I suppose, thinker, philosopher, psychologist called Dr. Emile Coué.
Mm.
And it was self mastery through the power of auto suggestion. I mean, it was the most convoluted title, but I
Mm.
read it, and in it was basically a simple way, a simple mantra of each and every way, and each and every day, I'm getting better and better. And I thought, is that it? That's so simple. So I was intrigued by this, and I applied it. I did as I was asked to do in the teachings of the book, and there was enough data from his own research that people swore by it. Um, so I read some more, and I found that when I did mantras or positive affirmations, my following day would be, let's say, more productive or more successful. So I used it when I was pitching or when I was going for job interviews, and it worked. I didn't know how it
Mm.
worked. I just knew it worked. So my friends, when friends would stay over, they'd come down and they'd just go, "What self-help book are you reading today?" So they'd always basically a bit of friendly banter. So I suppose without even realizing it, I was developing, I suppose, techniques and systems to be a coach. I just thought it was going to help me make my life more productive, more profitable, more, I suppose, easier in terms of my career. And when I started the training and when I went into this personal development, I was fortunate enough, as you said before, the universe gave me a sign, and I went to see a keynote speaker and didn't want to be there. Going through a marriage breakdown is no pleasure. So to be asked to come to a happy-go-lucky motivational speech was the last thing I wanted to do. But Jane, the sun was out, the sun was shining, and
Mm.
my friend said, "If you don't like it, you can just sit on the balcony and you can look out onto the cricket pitch and just sit there in your own thoughts." So I didn't do that. I sat at the back of the room not wanting to be there, not being myself, just not present. And within 30 seconds of this man appearing on stage, I was my hand was in the air. I couldn't, he'd literally got inside my head and I was transfixed. I
Mm.
thought I'd been hypnotized. And he was my, he was my mentor. He became my mentor, to the point where he taught me all about positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I became one of his coaches from complete
Mm.
scratch. I was the risk that he was prepared to take because he said, I need a maverick, and you're that maverick, and I'm going to teach you everything that I've learned over the last
Mm.
35, 40 years, and you're then going to go out and you're then going to preach what I share with you, and you'll practice it on yourself. And affirmations were a key part of his learnings. And of course,
Mhm.
I then revisited Dr. Emile Coué, and it was all, ooh, this stuff does work, because I understood about how it neurologically was working. And
Right.
all I've been doing was programming my brain to be happy, confident, loving, caring, supportive, resilient. All the things I am and want to be better at, they're the mantras that I use. So I say, I go through mantras every single day. I do the alphabet, Jane. I go from A
Mm.
to Z every night.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. That's
Helps you fall
but
asleep.
but Simon, that is fabulous. You said it's programming. And isn't it funny how we tend to, as humans, program ourselves, if we want to put it that way, to the negative? And we take that naturally. We always see oh, I'm no good, I'm not enough, I could never do that, oh, I can't, uh, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of how we normally see or how we take in our programming. But the positive programming, like you said, is it shows you how it works. We are just unconscious in our negative programming, because it's almost like we come with the negative programming and we have to unplug from the negative and plug
Yeah.
into the positive. That's almost what it is, because we're not
Yeah.
here. When we're children, we're joyful, we're naturally curious, we're naturally, just free and easy. But then we get into the programming, how we get into society and cultures and businesses, and how everything is conformity. So you're right, it's unplugging from that and then reprogramming ourselves. And I think one of the keys is repetition, as you said. You think of athletes, and they're a great
Yeah.
example, because no one's born a fabulous football player or soccer or whatever you want to take it. They have to practice and practice and practice to get good at it. Well, we need to practice being affirmative, being positive, and that's really what it is. It's all repetition. Like you said, you go
Agree.
from the whole alphabet every day. Well, my gosh, that's incredible. You're going to be an Olympian.
That,
You should
that's
be by
quite
now.
tricky. Yeah. But interestingly, many, many years ago, when I'd gone from a salesman to running an events business. So I've been with them for 7 years. So I'd literally gone from the guy on the road all the way to the top, and never really saw eye to eye with the owner. It was a family business, and he was of a certain, let's say, style. And him and I would cross swords because there was almost like a respect and a loathing in equal measure. But it seemed to work. And I remember one of the things he said to me, he said, you won't get this now, but he said, in time you will. And his words were, he said, repetition is the mother of all skills. And I think I went,
Mm.
oh, what absolute bogwash is that? I said, because in my mind, repetition equaled boredom. And he said,
Mm.
I knew you'd say that. He said, one day you'll tell this story. And I've probably told it a dozen or so times. And as I then got into the behavioral training and the CBT, of course, repetition, the more we practice something, whether it's useful or not useful,
Right.
that's what we become. Our thoughts, we become what we think. We are what we eat, but we also become what we think. And people say to me, well, I can never change. Well, You can. Just have to want to change, and you have to understand how you can change. I say, well, you've built this model of yourself as it is now. You didn't go and buy it. You weren't born with it. You've created this model, and if your
Right.
model, if you're of a negative mindset, so you've made that. Therefore, that would suggest that you can also, I love the idea of unplug. I might ask permission to use that once in a while, please. But that idea of you unplug that negative mindset and you start to build a new one. Just be aware it will take time because you are battling. It's like the scales, you've got a very heavy negative weight. So you've got to really, really change your internal thinking to be able to balance what people want internally. It doesn't always marry with what we see on the outside. So there's a lot of work that goes into change in terms of changing
Yes.
mindsets. But it does happen. People just need to. Someone said to me, "Oh, practice equals perfection," and I've gone. I think for me, practice equals progression. I don't know what perfection
Mm.
is. Progression is ongoing. When you hit perfection, is that it? So for me, it's progression is, and to progress, you have to be consistent. Therefore, be consistent in your repetition. So therefore, keep telling yourself things that are good for you. It doesn't mean I wake up every single day, as I've said before, thinking that the world is a wonderful place, because it isn't. But how I respond to the world, I do
Right.
have control over that. That's what I own. And therefore, people say, how can you be happy? Because I choose to be.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't see the world for what it is, which is uncomfortable, it's treacherous, it's evil, it's many things. There's also great beauty in the world. Great beauty. You've
Mm-hmm.
just got to find it. And when you find it, stick with it because it nourishes
Right.
me. So yeah, my world is a series of choices. And I was that negative person. I used to seesaw between happy and sad, or distrustful, cynical and positive. I was really unsure about who I was because of my past, because of
Mm.
situations in my past that shaped me. So,
Right.
yeah, when you meet people who can guide you, it's still a choice. I didn't have
Right.
to follow it. I decided to because it was good for me. I'm the happiest and most fulfilled I've ever been, and yet I've been through some real traumas and tragedies. But I'm
Right.
still here, and I can tell the stories and help other people to realize that when you think you're at the end and there's nothing else to give, there's always a way around. There's always another option. There's always a choice to make. And sometimes you just need someone with fresh eyes and a history to be able to say, look, there's a door that you've not looked at. And it might be the door that either saves your life or changes your life or just gives you a little bit of peace and solitude
Right.
and tranquility. Yeah,
Mm. Beautiful. Sometimes you just need someone to wake you up. That's really
that's
what it
brilliant.
is. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
And
that's what
sometimes
it
that
is.
person can be you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Find
Exactly.
that person, Dave. Find that person because they're out there.
Yes.
Everyone's got that person. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for that. So,
No, thank
coaching
you.
women now. Well, no, yes, absolutely. So, you've helped hundreds of women break through mindset blocks. What patterns do you see most of in women, and how do you help them shift that? I know you mentioned not enough, but this is something about breaking through mindset blocks. So, patterns, patterns that, like women, we have the nature of tend and befriend. That's something that we all want to be pleasing. That's definitely a pattern in females. But so, what are some of the common patterns that you see, and what are some of the things that you suggest? Obviously, we've covered affirmations that can help them make a shift.
The one that I hear a lot, and it seems very prevalent at the moment, is self doubt, and that self doubt, lack
Mm.
of belief, confidence shattered. Groundhog Day again is I keep looking to change who I am, and yet I always end up back in the same place. And
Mm.
imposter syndrome. Imposter
Oh,
syndrome is it is almost, and I understand it, I get it, but I always ask people, well, where does that come from? Where does your imposter syndrome come from? I said, it's not something you go to the doctors for. It's not something you buy off the shelf. I said, are we self creating imposter syndrome? or is it our environments that are conditioning us, and or are we allowing our environments to condition us? I don't see, I don't hear as many men talk about imposter syndrome
Yeah.
because I think men have a different approach. Men are more, how can I put this? If there's one job and both a man and woman are have the competencies to do it, usually the men have got more confidence in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how they would apply themselves to get that job. It's almost as if, well, I can do 7 or 8, I can do 80% of that role. I'm going to go for it. Whereas I find women would go, I need to have 90 or 95% of that role to be able to have a chance of getting it. I'm not saying women aren't ambitious, but men seem to be more confident about they seem to be able to hide or mask their, let's say, their lack of competency in certain areas where women don't. And this imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough. Therefore, I'll people please, or I'll please, this idea of pleasing tendencies to almost to kind of to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Why the imposter syndrome is very noticeable, and yet for me it's self-imposed. So
Oh,
it's
there's no
how do we get
question.
people
Yeah.
to recognize that and then realize that actually if it's self-imposed, therefore it can be unimposed. But once
Mm-hmm.
it takes root, as we said, once that circuit of imposter syndrome starts to take root, it's how do we get people to switch it off and build a a version of themselves that actually I am good at what I am. I am worthy of this role. I have got the skill sets. And again, I suppose it does fall back into affirmations in some respect, because that for me is an easy technique for people to practice, and the
Right.
evidence that it works is out there. But also asking clients to, what is it that they want? What is it they want to achieve from the world, whether that's their career, their personal lives, and asking them to vision forward. You know, kind of vision a place that of where they are happy, where they're fulfilled, where they're safe, where they're successful, where everything around them is good, not perfect, but good. A place that's an improvement on the place they might be in now. And ask them to draw that or sketch it or bullet point who's there, how does it feel, what are they hearing, even what they're wearing. You talked before about athletes. Athletes are adept at visualizing
Mm-hmm.
success, future success. And I've applied that in my own small fitness racing world. It works. It works.
Yes.
So future visioning for me is a really powerful experience, because what we do very well is we can evoke past memories as if they are happening right now. They become very vivid. So I always say, well, if we can see our memories from 15, 20, 25 years ago with such clarity, and you can almost feel the tension of the moment, and you can hear what's being said and what you were wearing, utilize that same process and just apply it to a place or a time that hasn't happened yet, but a
Right.
place that you want to create. So that, I hope, can help. I'm not saying it negates imposter syndrome, but it can give them hope that there is another place they can create. So again, it's plugging in a new version, isn't it? It's starting from scratch, and it's understanding what barriers might hit them to go to the end game, and then you work backwards to where they are now and see exactly
Yeah.
what steps need to be played. Basically, it's how do we get people to come out of their comfort zone? Because people create comfort zones. Whether an imposter syndrome is a comfort zone, as odd as that might sound, for me, that's what they've created, and it's uncomfortable. So sometimes we have to, how do we break from that? How do we get them to step out at a pace that suits them to create a growth zone and an end zone where they're going to be simply happier? And it might mean
Mm-hmm.
changing careers. It might mean leaving the workplace they're in. Like for me, it might mean, you know, leaving a marriage and a family, which wasn't just my decision. It was a duo decision. But that was the right thing to do, as sad and uncomfortable as it was for all of us. It was the right thing to do. And looking back
Mm-hmm.
now, we have a good, cordial, ex-wife and ex-husband relationship, and our children are grounded and measured. and
Wow.
realize that living a lie doesn't work. So be honest. Wow, I think I've gone into
Hmm.
different territory there, Jane. Sorry, it's opened up a couple of memories. Forgive me.
No, that's fine. Yes, it's I definitely can see that. I mean, it's like, again, it's really about seeing the potential and having a vision for where you want to go, and that in lies. Joe Dispenza is one of my all-time favorites, and he often says, when our thoughts are no longer a record of the past, but a roadmap to the future, that's when we draw our vision to us. And
Yeah.
it's things like that that really, but we have to start somewhere. And like you said, it's really being aware, first and foremost, that that's what you're doing to yourself, that you're holding yourself back or you're staying in your comfort zone, like you said. And then you
Mm.
have, okay, I'm aware that I'm doing this. Now here's a tool that I can use, whether it's an affirmation, or put yourself, you envision that place that you want to be. Just a shift. That's all it takes, is a shift. But thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's really, like you said, it is tend to be prevalent in women, the imposter syndrome, and it's. I'm like you. I believe it's a term that was made up just to keep our minds occupied. I don't believe in it, quite frankly. I understand the feeling of not feeling secure, but therein lies, take the risk or take the leap, or it's, we all have uncomfortable. But I go back to children, because when you fell off your bike or when you fell learning to walk, did you stop because you felt uncertain? No, you kept going. You fell, maybe you hurt yourself, you got right back up, you tried it again. I mean, to the horror of your parents, because you're trying to keep them safe without bruises and cuts. But there was just no stopping you as a child. You wanted to learn to walk, you wanted to learn to ride that bike, you wanted to learn to how to eat your food with a fork without poking yourself in the eye.
Yeah.
you know
I,
yes, exactly.
there was an
Yeah, so
identity that you were. There was a picture of you in the future. You could see this identity of, well, if I ride my bike, I can. I'm free. I've got freedom. I can go to places. I can get there quicker. So it's almost as children, we almost saw the benefits without even realizing it. But those benefits seem to manifest themselves really easy. And as you say, we didn't go, well, I can't ride that. You just got back on. Whether you were
right.
cut, grazed, you kept going. And because I think we saw our friend, and again, the people who woke us up, our friend, well, they come out of bike, and I've still got stabilizers. So you
Yeah.
kind of, you just wanted to be like the people, your close network. Even as children, we always said we had more ambition. The world was our oyster. Nothing could stop us. And the only thing that's changed in all of that as we get older is us.
Mm-hmm.
So it sometimes going back to a childhood memory can be really powerful, because it kind of creates that autotelic learning of, when we're children, we have got, our inhibitions are, on the whole, not there,
Yeah,
you know,
we
and
don't have
therefore
the
we have more,
baggage.
no, and we build the baggage. And just
Yeah.
going back to the imposter syndrome, a dear friend of mine has a very different approach to imposter syndrome. So he's kind of reframed it. We've had a good conversation around this, and I kind of see where it comes from. And for him, he said, imposter syndrome can be used for good, because what it gives you is the ability to almost take a step back and risk assess. He said,
Mm.
so you can use imposter syndrome as a sort of a risk assessment tool, so long as then you then do something with it, you action what you risk
Mm.
assess. He said, so it can be a little bit of it is the voice in your head, but how do you make that voice in your head productive? So his angle is that, imposter syndrome can actually be useful if it's
Mm-hmm.
used in the right way. And I was like, okay, so I get it sometimes. And you think, actually, well,
I
what's it
love that,
telling me?
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
what's
love
it
that.
telling me?
Right. It's flipping the
Just a different
script.
approach, isn't it? Exactly, the script that someone else has created. So therefore, why don't we create a new script? So that sometimes is a really interesting way when you're with clients to say, well, what if imposter syndrome was a good thing? What would it be
Mm.
like? Well, it'd be like my father or my mother or my husband. And what would it be doing? Getting me to sense check. Right then. So
Right.
therefore, maybe we can reframe imposter syndrome then to be of use, of value, because it might
Mm-hmm.
stop you from heading into the wrong territory. Or so yeah, again, I think sometimes, as you said, flipping concepts that we are conditioned to think have a negative disposition. It's not always the case.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. I love that. I am definitely going to use that for individuals who tell me that they have imposter syndrome. I said, that's
Yeah.
just the way you're thinking it. But anyway, thank you for that. Yes, I think your
No,
friend is
no,
right on, quite frankly.
good to share. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll let him know.
absolutely. It's quite a gem. Yes. So, how do you help? Moving on to our why, especially when a lot of individuals are talking now about personal brand, even if you have a
Mm.
job or you're going for a corporate job. Because let's face it, especially the younger generation today, they don't have one or two jobs like maybe in our generation or even three. They change jobs like they change their clothes. Um, and so they do. I mean, like in our day, if I'd already had three jobs, they'd go, okay, what's wrong with you? Like, obviously, you're not a good employee. But today, that's par for the course. So, how do you help people or clients uncover their why when everything around them feels they're not quite sure about where they're going or what they're doing? And it leads to their personal branding. I mean, you want to know why you're like you're doing your coaching, and you knew that you loved people and you loved interacting and listening, which is an incredible skill.
Mm.
So uncovering your why, are there any steps that you recommend your clients take to uncover that?
Again, I think it's going back to that piece where we talked about taking that time out to really question, what it is that you bring to the world, um, why you are the way you are, um, thinking about what might be holding you back, thinking about a world where when you are at your most comfortable, thinking about what drives you, what you get excited about, what your passions are. I think for me, your why is determined by, I think there's a great expression, which is what gets you out of bed in the morning, or why do you wake up? What's your purpose in life? And I think a lot of people just think that their purpose is to pay the bills, or to be a good husband, or be a good wife, or to be a good mother or father. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's usually a much deeper meaning within your core. So I mean, Simon Sinek in his Golden Circle is a great
Mm.
example of that. No one really cares what you do. People might be interested in how you do it, but what they're really focused on is why you do it. What's that intrinsic driver that really gets you? I think I said excited, passionate, to the point where it overwhelms you because it's so important to you. Um, Mine's helping people, always has been. I just didn't realise. When I was a young boy, my teacher said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "A bus driver." And she went,
Hmm.
"Why a bus driver?" I said, "Because I'll be the person that takes them to work or to school. I mean, I'll be the person who makes them smile when they get onto my bus." They said, "I'll be the person who makes a lasting impression on their day because I can make a difference to their day by the way I am." And I was like 8 years old.
Hmm.
So even
Wow.
then, so being a bus driver was that a why? No, but it was that innate desire to want to. I like seeing people happy. So when
Hmm.
people say, "What's my why?" What do you want from life? What is it that makes you feel good? What's it makes you tick? Again, that A game. When you're in your A game, what have you done to get there? What scenarios are you in? Describe them to me. Talk about them. Is it because you've won a tournament of sport, or because you've got a promotion? But what is it that's underlying in that? I have clients who
Right.
take weeks to find out their why. I have other clients who take 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just intuitive. It's an
Hmm.
intuitive process. Some people find it really easy. Others, to this day, still don't know why they do what their why is. They just seem to have a barrier around it. They know what they do, they know how they do it, but they can't seem to grasp. what their why is. For me, it's always been there. I just didn't find the right career I went through.
Right.
I was that person who's changed jobs a lot to find. It took me till the age of late 40s to actually find what I've been looking for.
Yeah. Well, that's the journey, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it often takes many of us, those children that are born with, the knowledge or the insight that they this is what they want to do and they love it. I mean, they start out and they end up doing that for the rest of their lives. Usually they're proteges, but yeah, it's a journey. That's why they say life is a journey. It's not a destination. So absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I know that it's often, I understand what you said about some people take days. I actually had a lady that I had lunch with once a while ago, and she's all about nonprofits. That's her passion. And well, so she says, and she knows how to run them and what you need and on the board and all this kind of stuff. So I asked her, I said, well, why do you do it? Why do you do what you do? She's extremely knowledgeable. And she says, because I'm good
Mm.
at it. And I said, okay, but that's not really a why. Like you said, it's something you're good at, it's something you've been doing all your life. She says, well, my parents taught me to always give back. Aha.
Ah.
I said, she just could not understand. And I said, that's not really a why. I said, it has to be something inside of you, something that you feel. I always say, what sets your heart on fire? And she was completely
Mm.
stuck. I mean, we moved on because it was just a lunch meeting, but I was astounded. I mean, it was interesting how there was that complete block that she didn't understand at all what I was asking. And I could see she was getting frustrated. She goes, well, I don't understand. I've told you why several times. And I'm like, okay, we'll, we'll leave that for now. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Her programming was really, really ingrained in her mind. I knew she was doing
Yeah.
it because it was something her parents had said that she should do. And because she was good at it, but it wasn't necessarily, something that resonated with her. But,
Interesting, isn't it? And again, it's the
yeah,
same question, but people's perception of it and their context can completely, as you say,
yeah,
for we see it as a block, but for them, it's a what block? I'm good at
yeah,
this. It's all about giving back. It's yeah, it hints at a why, but it's not really that. As you say, it doesn't ignite the fire,
right,
and that's the
right.
key
And
thing. Unleash,
was it
unleash the
hers or
fire.
was it her or was it her
Yeah.
parents? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, interesting conversation. Yes, for sure.
Mm.
Whys are can be very easy or they can be very difficult depending on, the individual. And there you go. We're all different and it's all a journey. So, recognition now, Simon, you were on the Northern Women's Power Advocacy List.
Oh
And
yeah.
what does that recognition mean to you as a man and an ally in the space of gender equality?
Everything. It was it came out of the blue. I was recommended by a client, Denise, who I'd coached for 12 months, and Denise said, "I've put you forward for this award or this nomination." So I said, "Okay." So he said, "You'll probably get an email," and I didn't realize what it was. I'd heard of the woman Simone who runs Northern Power Women, and I've been aware of them, but I just didn't think that was something that I'd ever get involved in as a man, because it's about 110,000 strong collective, sisterhood, female leaders. It's an amazing community. So to be nominated for me was like, wow. I was happy with that. I was happy with the nomination. Then I was shortlisted, and I was thinking, okay. And then I had to then create a dissertation about why I deserved to be, within this collective. So of course, I spent probably a day putting together my thoughts, why I believed I should be part of this advocacy list. And yeah, I was selected along with 19 other men. who all in our own way are doing something to readdress the balance of gender equality in the workplace.
Mm.
So I think I was blown away, to be honest. I remember being, sort of speechless, because it was to be recognised by someone that I'd helped to help themselves, and then to be recognised by a panel of women who had never met me before. They'd just heard about me and done their due diligence. And yeah, it was empowering, it was humbling, it was emotional, and took so much pride from it. It's one of the most, I think, in my career, when people say, "What awards have you got?" or "What qualifications have you got?" I always say, I was one of the first men to be empowered onto the Northern Power Women Advocacy List, and I
Yeah.
practice, what I preach. That's what I do, but I do it because I love helping people. I don't do it to win awards or to be nominated. That was a
Right.
byproduct, a wonderful byproduct. And now I go to the events. I do what I do in terms of my coaching, but what I do find, Jane, is that I hear stories from amazing women, incredible women. I hear stories of pain, of torture, of distress and despair, as
Mm.
well as stories of triumph and triumph over disaster. So I'm constantly uh, just amazed at how these women that I've come to know and respect have just maintained this. They're like a force of nature. So for
Mm.
me to be within that tribe, that community, it's beautiful, and they teach
Mm.
me. They they teach me so much, and I learn from them. And every now and then they'll ask for my feedback and my thoughts, and yeah, so it's been great. It's been really good. And now there is another 20 men. So there's now 40 men who are
Oh.
in this advocacy list. So it's great. Yeah. So we are starting to grow, and we're ambassadors. We're ambassadors and advocates for change. And that is a real moment for me. And I've got the badge somewhere. Every time we're out, we wear the little badges that say that we are advocates for women. And it's great. It's a really good
Wow.
feeling. And it's just my little piece of me that can hopefully make a difference. If I make a difference to one woman's life, my work is not done, but that gives me that badge of honor to
Mm.
think that, raised
Yeah.
by three women, I kind of know what women went through. So
Yeah.
for me, it's someone said the other day, said, "Are you an adopted woman?" I was like, "What?" He said, "Well, you've got a lot of female tendencies." I said, "Well, I was raised by three women, so it's probably got a lot to do with it." So I said, "I understand. I can empathise as much as a man can empathise." But yeah,
Right.
I wonderful. You can tell yeah, I still get goosebumps when I think that, it's something that will be my legacy. What's the one thing you're
Yeah.
most proud of? Being accepted into a female collective.
Well, that's
That's
wonderful.
recognition.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That it really is, it's special when you feel, and
Mm,
that's why we're here, is to serve.
yeah,
That's the key, is when you've made a difference. You know, did I matter? Did I make a difference? That's
yeah,
the legacy. Also too, when you have children, it's your family as well. But yeah, it's so wonderful. Now, thank you, and tell us then about your 5-day challenge. Do you still have that? Women Who Lead.
yes, yeah. We launched the first one in spring, and I just wanted to do something different where I would give more opportunity to women to come together. So I suppose taking lead from the women power. It was about how can I create a safe environment online where women leaders can feel comfortable and safe to talk about their barriers, and
Mm.
we as a community can support them to break through those barriers. So that's how we positioned it, and we actually positioned it as a movement. And we've got four founding members of this movement. I'm the plus one. They're called the Fab Four, the Fab Four
Okay.
plus one, which is me. Um, and we created a really intimate space. And yeah, the transformations were inspiring, were incredible, were life changing. And so from that, we thought, right, okay, what have we learned? What can we do differently? So we're running another one at the end of September. Same
Mm.
principles, women who lead, barriers to breakthroughs. Going to keep it quite intimate, because what we found was that smaller numbers created more impact, more
Right.
power, um,
Hmm.
and more transformations, because people felt like they could be heard.
Right.
And that's one thing that we wanted to ensure. So people said you could get hundreds of women. I was all, yeah, but then it's not a movement, is it? It'd be lovely, but it wouldn't have the same impact, because we were able to give live coaching in those 5 days. It was 1 hour a day, Jane, and in each hour, there was always the opportunity for me to demonstrate live coaching and be agile and fluid with what I heard. And then the community, so the other women within the group, then also became coaches and mentors to
Mm.
each other. Oh, it was
Right.
amazing. It was like, wow, women have got so much more to give. They're so much more comfortable with their vulnerabilities. And I was
Hmm.
just, say, honored that I could be part of that movement and help facilitate. My job was to facilitate. Sometimes I just stand back, drop a question and go, right, what do you think of that then? And then watch them solve it, watch them create their own solutions. And uh, yeah, so I can't wait for that. We've just literally, the last couple of days, just started I suppose, a very gentle launch campaign. Got some testimonials that we've snipped and clipped as you do. And when you listen to them, it's like, one woman was powerless,
Mm.
powerless. She left powerful in 5 hours. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm hoping that we have the same impact, with a very different set of women leaders this time round. So yeah,
Hmm.
it takes a lot from me, because I give everything in terms of those 5 days. It's all consuming. And the day after, my partner said, "I've never seen you emotionally drained before." And I was all, no, and I've just been through a wonderful experience with four amazing women. And I said, the Saturday I was wiped. It just
Hmm.
emotionally, literally, I was happy, but there was nothing left. And then Sunday, I was like, I was back. It was as if it was a place that I had to go to almost just recharge.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
reflected so much. So yeah, it's such a wonderful experience to be, I suppose, to be part of it. That's what I love, is being part of people's transformations. It's a fuel. It's a fuel for
Right.
me, because it fulfills that why. And it's also nice to share that fuel with complete strangers who then become a unity. They became a collective
Hmm.
themselves. They're met.
Right.
They're now
Yeah.
firm friends, and they're the Fab Four plus one. So who knows what will happen in September? Who knows? We'll see. We're going to
It
keep
sounds
pushing it and promoting
wonderful.
it. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. I
Yeah,
hope it's the same.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, it's when you do have, like you said, and the smaller groups are more impactful. There's no question about it. But yeah, it's so refreshing to hear from a man that you say women are just so vulnerable, but you by telling their stories, that's when the transition comes or the change. So yeah,
Oh,
by sharing, yeah, and then of course, like you said, everyone pitches in and sees another perspective, so you can get a lot more that way as well. So I'm so glad that it was successful and that you're launching another one.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
So that's great.
Watch this space.
So if Simon, there was one message that you would tell the world, what would it be?
Tell the world, or learn to focus on what's
Mm.
essential for you.
Okay.
Learn to focus
Yeah.
on what's essential for you. That advice
Yeah.
was given to me, and I've taken it, and I think it's born from a samurai warrior. So we're going back a few
Mm.
centuries, but I just thought, wow, learn to focus on what's essential for you. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
can't, if you're comfortable in yourself, if your core is good, I suppose it's like when people say, well, how can you love if you don't love yourself?
Yes.
So the most
Hmm.
essential thing in the world is me, I suppose, in that respect. And that's not from an egotistical. It's if I can make me feel good and get me right, therefore I'm then comfortable and in the right place to be able to help other people. So self-love is a real key driver for me. And I think that learn to focus on the what's essential for you. That was the thing that I did was, you know, what makes me happy. And then I
Right.
can offer, then I can give my love in abundance to others, whether that's through intimate love or whether it's through coaching and the ability to be compassion. It's compassion, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's hard to give
Yes.
compassion to others unless you're compassionate to yourself. So yeah, so
Mm.
I think essential can mean so many different things to different people, but at least it's a good for me as a concept. It helps and it
Yes.
stays with me.
Yeah.
It's on the window. It's in the mirror, in the bathroom. It's in here, and most importantly, it's in my heart.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Learn to focus on what's essential to you. Yeah, that brings you
Yeah.
back full circle. Absolutely. Well,
Good.
how do people discover more about your services, Simon, and your resources? And we will have all of this on our bio pages as well.
The the most accessible place is LinkedIn. That's where
Mm.
I probably showcase my thoughts, my feelings. Yeah, I'm in there. I'm in there. It's like it's a house. I'm on LinkedIn usually every day. I'm very open, and I will post usually topics of like leadership, behaviour, gender inequality, women leadership, as well as showcasing. You talked about personal brand. I dip my toe into being a bit more, I suppose, more open about my personal brand in terms of what I do outside of work, because that drives who I am. So,
Hmm.
interestingly, my most engaged posts are the ones of me going through hell in some incredible, toughest fitness races. So, just like photos of me literally say, yeah, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I showcase who I am. I showcase how I am, and I showcase how I can, how I help myself. Therefore, how I can help others. LinkedIn is my, I suppose, is the best window to look at me.
Mm. Okay, wonderful. Well, like I said, we'll have all that information available as well. And
Thank you.
yes, absolutely. Because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question.
Okay.
If your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
Life is a roller coaster. Buckle up tight.
Perfect. I always say that. I always say life is a roller coaster. It definitely is. I love it.
And
Well,
I have roller coasters galore in my mind. So yeah, life
eh,
is a series of roller coasters, maybe. But yeah, something on those lines. Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
Brilliant.
It's perfect. So, thank you again, Simon, for joining us here today. And once again, for
Thank you.
information and to connect with Simon, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of his social media and direct contact information. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath and look me up at janeapplegath.com where you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Epic Vision Zone, plus other streaming platforms such as Spotify and iTunes. Sending you much love and gratitude. This is the Epic Vision Zone, the ultimate source for extraordinary transformation.